He is suggesting the forcible permanent displacement of about 2 million people from a place that they call home. He is talking about relocating Palestinians out of Gaza forcibly. He is talking about potentially using U.S. troops to do so, which would involve putting U.S. troops in combat to rout the Hamas militants who surely would not leave willingly, and also to remove Palestinian civilians who also will not leave their homes willingly. And so that obviously has enormous implications for what the president is suggesting here. And we should note that, as the president is talking about displacing Palestinians from Gaza, he is talking about it in the context of all that they have suffered over the last 15 months of war and decades of conflict. But rather than solving the conflict, the president is saying, let's take one party of the conflict out of this place that they call home and turn it into a real estate development that would attract, I think he said, the people of the world who would be able to live there. He did say that that would include some Palestinians, as well as also suggesting that that would also include Israelis. So this is a quite radical idea from President Trump, and certainly one that is going to be rejected out of hand by Palestinians on the ground, and I suspect by many Arab leaders in the region as well.
Well, I mean, Jim, just to state the obvious, and I know many like us who have reported from Israel on this issue, you will talk to someone who will talk about how they still have the keys to their family's home in Ashkelon, which is on obviously the Israeli side, who are Palestinians. Like, to imagine the people who live in Gaza are just going to happily, merrily go live in some kind of a permanent refugee camp like Syrians have been living in Syria is obviously absurd. But what President Trump just said there is the only reason to go back is if they have nowhere else to go. Jim, of course, that's not the reason they want to go back. They want to go back because it's home. So then what does all this actually mean? Does this all just become a whole lot of hot air or not?
Well, listen, apply that principle to any other war or conflict that involves two people fighting over a piece of land. Did George Mitchell suggest moving the Catholics out of Ireland, right? I mean, when you were speaking about South Africa, did you discuss moving all black South Africans out of Africa to solve the issue here? It's preposterous, and it's illegal by any understanding of international law that you would forcibly move people away from their homes. I mean, the agency here, right, is the agency of the Palestinian people. Right. Are they going to be frog marched out of their country by U.S. forces as it's then rebuilt as a Riviera by presumably U.S. property developers? That seems to be what the president. It's not seems to be what the president is suggesting. It is what the president is suggesting in so many words. And I would just say that the thing is with Trump, he seems to be applying this principle, if you want to call it that, to other places as well. He wants Greenland, apply pressure to an ally, in this case, a treaty ally, Denmark, and take ownership, maybe send some money their way, and make it part of the U.S. Same with Panama. Violate a decades-old treaty to take back the Panama Canal. Where is the agency of the nations whose territory is sovereign, right? Much like the Palestinian people in Gaza. It seems to be a Trump worldview here that requires moving people off their land. The other piece I would say, it requires two other countries giving up their land, right? Jordan and Egypt to become new homes for the Palestinian people. And by the way, their leaders have said they have no interest in doing that.
And, of course, there was also a question there about Samaria, part of the West Bank, that he put that on the table as well.
Yes,
I mean, Jeremy, in a normal world, we might be talking about some other things said here, except for what was said about Gaza was so strident and stark and in so many senses shocking. He also said U.S. funding to UNRWA is cut off, right? U.S. is the largest donor to UNRWA, 30% last year. So, Jeremy, that just happened. All of this. And watching the look on Prime Minister Netanyahu's face, I was struck, Jeremy, by the fact that even he, I don't want to use the word giddy, but in a sense, that's the right word. And then he came out and said it himself. Trump's taking it to another level. He could never have dreamed of all these things being handed to him in any other setting than this one. And as he said, Trump is the greatest friend he's ever had.
Without a doubt. And, you know, as President Trump was preparing to come into office, there was some anticipation among Israeli officials who knew, of course, that Trump had been friendly to Israel in the past, had been a great ally to Israel, had annexed recognized Israel's annexation of the Golan Heights, for example, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, moves that President Trump referenced tonight. But there was still some uncertainty about where exactly he would stand on Gaza, where exactly he would stand on some of these thornier issues like annexation of the West Bank, whether or not he would play good cop, bad cop with Netanyahu. And today, Netanyahu is really just getting a raft of ideas that his right-wing allies in government have been promoting for years, being put on a silver platter here by President Trump. The forcible displacement of Palestinians from Gaza, chief among them. And then also, as you mentioned, Aaron, there was something there where he said in the next 4 weeks that he would be making some kind of announcement regarding the annexation of the West Bank. Whether or not that is a decision for the United States to support annexation of the West Bank wasn't entirely clear, but clearly it was something that he discussed with the Israeli Prime Minister and something that the Israeli Prime Minister here in Israel has talked about, has campaigned on, and has been pushed on by his right-wing governing partners.
And to that point, Jeremy, I suppose if the U.S. president believes the U.S. can take ownership of Gaza by some fiat or whatever, I suppose he imagines he can declare that Israel can take ownership of the West Bank, I imagine, based on that principle.
Yeah, whatever principle that might be. Yeah. All right. Thank you both.